Thousands take to Bay and Shirley Street for the 2014 Boxing Day Junkanoo Parade. The National Security Minister says hanging is not likely to happen again in the Bahamas. And the Sky Bahamas CEO says last week's pilot sick-out proves unions have a strong grip on government. We've got those stories and more coming up tonight. I'm Dana Smith, and NB12 starts right now. Topping news tonight, thousands lined Bay and Shirley Streets this morning for the Boxing Day Junkanoo Parade. This year's annual Bahamian tradition saw the cowbells, feathers, jewels, and sequins we're all used to, but not everything went according to plan, with one Junkanoo judge arrested by police at the parade, one group breaking down en route to Bay Street, and one Junkanoo official calling the parade disappointing. Kyle Joaquin was there for all the action.
That's the sound of the Valley Boys, who kicked off this year's Boxing Day Junkanoo Parade, bringing Christmas to Bay Street. In their first major parade since the passing of their leader Winston Gus Cooper, the Valley Boys entertained the crowd with Christmas classics like We Wish You a Merry Christmas and Christmas Comin'. The group also brought Santa Claus and even a bit of snow to Rawson Square, as it showed spectators how Christmas is done in the Bahamas. Well-known Valley Boy Prime Minister Perry Christie said the group lived up to his standard to some extent, but could have been a lot better on their first lap.
The groups are so large now that large parts of the performance are without music. It doesn't even look like fun when you're without music. So we have to find a way to throw the music forward through using technology. It can be done, and I think we have to look at it so that all through the presentation, people could be dancing to the sound of music.
My team done win. The Valley done pass. I only hear killing time till they come around the second round. I'm one family.
I do not agree with the Valley performance. Yeah.
Production. They perform. Yes, they did. I'm hoping that they're the winner. Yes, I'm a Valley fan.
Now things got a bit interesting in the A category when the group set to leave the gate second. The Music Makers was not prepared. We understand the group had a major incident occur while en route to Bay Street and thus were not prepared to hit the starting line.
I understood that there may have been some problem with the costume, but then the leader told me that they had some issues getting to the parade, not sure. And so that was a big setback. They couldn't come out when they're supposed to come out.
Officials then had to do a bit of rearranging to the lineup and send out returning B Group champs colors. But in between all the action were long waiting periods which took the fun out of it for some people, including Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture Danny Johnson, who said come next year there will be a lot of new changes to fix the parade.
And the fun is just getting this rolling. You got to be rolling all the time. I mean, that's the way it should go. And we're going to get it back to that. We got to get it back to that. This is the last time we can have this kind of slow-moving stuff. Last time.
The Valley Boys, everything was good, but I think it took too long for me to really hear the music. And when I did, it was so short-lived. So I think I think that's a good idea to cut it down a bit.
Then it was time for the One Family Warriors, who celebrated the lives of those that have passed away, including Dr. Miles Monroe. One family paid homage to their fallen soldiers with the theme Gone But Not Forgotten and serenaded the crowd with old-fashioned funeral music. The group even reenacted a state-recognized funeral with a full-on military procession to match. Meanwhile, police were out in full force during the parade. Assistant Commissioner of Police Leon Bethel said officers had Bay and Shirley Streets well covered during the parade and also along roads leading to Bay Street. Bethel said police found themselves arresting numerous people whom they were searching for in connection with several matters, many of whom were already being electronically monitored, including this judge who was taken off Bay Street as he judged the Valley Boys on their first lap.
He was judging with ankle bracelet on his foot, and we were looking for him, a judge. That would not happen, and we would not allow no one who was a criminal to come among decent people to disrupt. We were looking for him, to talk to him about some other matters. So like I say, I want all the criminals to come out so we could find you and put you in the cell. Who we looking for?
Music makers then found their way to Bay Street to execute their theme, Deliver Us From Evil. Not far behind was the Roots, who paid tribute to Nelson Mandela with their theme. Now, it wasn't just the A groups having fun on Bay Street. B category groups like Redland Soldiers, Colors, Conquerors for Christ, and the Original Congos moved the crowd. Prodigal Son celebrated the Disney classic, The Lion King, and then it was time for one more group.
And the last to hit Bay Street, celebrating 50 years of tourism in the Bahamas, the Shell Saxon Superstars.
The Shell Saxon Superstars highlighted the country's 50-year journey in tourism, from the earlier years of a blossoming hotel industry to the new frontier of introducing Junkanoo Carnival. Tourism Minister Obi Wolchcombe also got in on some of the action. Saxon's leader Percy Vola-Francis said he's satisfied that his people gave their all, even after waiting for so long.
I feel really good, doesn't matter what the outcome will be. I'm very, very pleased of the performance and also the presentation done by the Shell Saxon Superstars this morning in the house.
50 plus 50 makes 100. 100.
In all, chairman of the parade management team Douglas Hanna said, quite frankly, the parade did not go very well at all. And here's why.
I came from Elizabeth Avenue, they called me there, and there were some issues with costumes. And actually, it took 2 hours for, and I would say, the members of one family, because they were right behind Valley. It took them about 2 hours to move one of Valley's costumes out of the road. It broke down, and they left it. It is a whole issue of whether groups are listening to their leaders, where they're slipping. It's really a bit crazy. If you tell group members, listen, the rules say this, and groups say, well, I don't know about the rules because I wasn't in that meeting when they made the rules. So things like that, and I know there are large numbers in groups, but I think those who are in leadership need to at least know the rules.
Hanna said he knows the necessary changes won't be made in time for the New Year's Day parade, but he hopes to have everything fixed by next year, Boxing Day. Reporting for NB12, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Be sure to tune in to NB12 tomorrow night for a full breakdown of the scores. In other news, more than 100 suspected illegal migrants are currently detained in Exuma after they were found by Bahamian authorities aboard a vessel 6 miles off Bari Tari. According to a statement released by the Immigration Department, the migrants, believed to be Haitian nationals, were found during a joint routine marine patrol operation with the police force. Arrangements are currently being made to transport the 93 men and 19 women to New Providence for further processing and repatriation to their home country. The Immigration Department also noting today there's been a sighting of another vessel believed to be transporting illegal migrants, and a Defense Force patrol boat has been dispatched. These 2 interdictions and 1 sighting bring the total number of illegal migrant vessels in Bahamian waters to 3 in the past 3 days. Well, with this year's murder count now in the triple digits, there's been renewed interest in capital punishment as a possible means to mitigate crime. While National Security Minister Dr. Bernard Nottage told NB12 it doesn't appear to him there's going to be any hangings in the Bahamas anytime soon. The minister said if the death penalty is the law, then it should be carried out. But based on the opinions of the higher courts, that's not likely.
My view is that if the law permits hanging, and if the persons who are charged and convicted of a crime which requires hanging, that it should be carried out. However, we know now that the courts in our country do not sanction hanging. The Privy Council has indicated that hanging should only be used in the worst of the worst cases, and as we have sought to implement that, the boundary shifts. What you think may be a worst of the worst case, the Privy Council says is not, or the appeals court says is not, and so it doesn't appear to me that there's going to be any hanging in the Bahamas anytime soon if the position remains as it is.
Nottage explained in order to override the Privy Council's opinion on hanging, a constitutional amendment would be necessary.
What we have been told is that if we want to remove the Privy Council's opinion from the situation, then what we would have to do is have a constitutional amendment that mandates hanging or capital punishment. The government would have to have that under consideration, not only the government but the society, and we would move from there.
Controversial Tall Pines MP Leslie Miller has been vocal about his support for the death penalty, telling NB12 parliamentarians who do not want to enforce it should stay the hell out of Parliament. When asked about this, Nottage said he doesn't believe Miller's opinion is very constructive.
Well, that's not a very constructive position to take. There are people who are philosophically against killing other people and don't believe that the state should do so, and there are people who are very happy too. So those are positions that people have that we have to respect.
Attorney Wayne Monroe says successive governments have only been playing politics with the death penalty. Monroe said the people who make laws in the Bahamas have an obligation to do whatever is necessary to stop the scourge of crime. While he doesn't think capital punishment will necessarily bring about a decrease in murders, Monroe said if the government really wants it to be carried out in the Bahamas, all it has to do is create the legislation.
I think they are. I think they have no desire to really execute anybody because it's going to be awkward when you have executed some people's children or family and you go around campaigning maybe. Because not only did we say you need legislation on that, we have pointed out to them the other problems that you will have even if you get the worst of the worst right.
Currently, there is one man on the death row, Kofi Goodman, who was found guilty of killing 11-year-old Marco Archer. According to law, the death penalty can only be granted in cases of the worst of the worst. Monroe said even if someone is found guilty of such an offense, there are too many other steps in human rights bodies that come into play, which eventually lead to the sentence being overturned.
We have in this country a right to make an application to the OAS human rights body, who never gets back to you in the 5-year period. And so we need to opt out of that protocol if we really want to execute people in accordance with our law. But you have a bunch of people, jokey people, some on social media, some in politics, running around and talking nonsense. And you will address the worst of the worst, and guess what? You're still not going to hang anyone because the next challenge is going to be the Prerogative Board of Mercy. And then you deal with that, and guess what? You're still not going to hang anybody because the next problem is going to be the OAS, the Inter-American Human Rights Tribunal.